Hello, all you rapscallions out there. This is episode 240 of the Laravel News Podcast. Today is June 30th, 2025. I just finished watching Jack Black pretending to be Bob Ross, talking about Kyle Gass, his buddy, and he calls him a rapscallion. And I was like, I need to work that in. I need to work that in somewhere. So I just want to start the show off with it.
I don't think you worked it in so much as you jammed it right in there, right in the front.
Just crushed it right in there, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. No transition needed. Hello, all you rapscallions. Well, hey, folks, it is June 30th, which means right around the corner is the U.S. holiday of July 4th, which I'm very much looking forward to. One of my favorite times of the year. But if you happen to be watching the YouTube stream and you see my scruffy beard, a little bit more scruffy than normal, it is because right around the corner is Freedom Stash 4th. It is July 4th, and you should celebrate your freedom with me by only leave the mustache and make everybody suffer through it with you for the day. I will be posting a picture. You should do the same. Freedom Stash July 4th.
I hope the rest of that beard has grown back come Laracon US because I won't be able to look at you. I won't be able to look at you.
It'll be back. Me and J-Mac, we're going to be bringing it though on July 4th. We're going to rock some Freedom Stashes up in here. So, you don't even have to be an American to do it. You don't have to be an American to do it. You just have to be able to grow a mustache.
So that rules me out.
That's right. Well, maybe you get one of those fake ones, like a glue-on one or something.
Look, there is a photo somewhere. There is a photo somewhere of me with one of those, because we have in September, we do for men's mental health awareness.
Yes.
Well, actually, Movember, is that global?
Yeah, that's
Movember? Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if that was just, so, and this was like before I could grow even less than I can grow now. And I just bought one of them, went into a costume shop and got a fake moustache and just stuck that on.
That'll work. That'll work.
All right,
I'll see you on July 4th. My friend. Let's see, who else could we do? I wonder, there's no way we're getting David Hemphill to do it. No way we're getting TJ Miller to do it.
TJ's not shaving that beard.
Nope. Neither is David. They've got too much invested. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, not happening.
Anyway, if you happen to be one of the brave souls who'd like to join us, you are certainly welcome to do so. Well, folks, we have got a good show ahead. We're going to start with only one release, 12.19. And then we've got lots of news, lots of packages, some framework reminders, some tutorials, all the good stuff right in front of you. Real quick, before we jump in, we are on the train of getting all of our stuff upgraded to 12. And I got to say, if you are on 11 and you're trying to make the jump to 12, it is pretty good. Not too bad. Yep. If you use Laravel Shift, it's basically a couple little pieces, and then make sure that you move your time zone into your app.php if you end up having to use a time zone other than UTC, which we do. And I think that's it. I mean, that's it. Literally everything else is taken care of by Shift. So yeah, it's a good one. You should definitely get up to 12 if you're not. It's not too bad.
Yep. 11 to 12 was...
I thought you were going to say something there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 11 to 12 was fairly straightforward for us, except for some inertia things. Because in order for us to do Nova 4 to Nova 5, we had to do inertia 1 to inertia 2. And I was not confident that we weren't going to break our inertia front end stuff. So that's someone else on the team has actually gone through and done that today. So we'll be on that inertia 2 soon, and then Laravel 12 hopefully not too far in the future.
Yeah. We actually, that was the one thing I did forget, is that we had to upgrade to Nova 5 as well, which was a little bit more work than the upgrade to Laravel, and mostly just because not because of anything first party with Nova. It was some stuff moved, and then also it was like some third party packages that we were using. We had to get tagged and upgraded and all that stuff. So anyway, speaking of version 12, we have Laravel 12.19, which we're going to talk about right now. So the Laravel team released this with a useEloquentBuilder PHP attribute, an as-fluent model cast, and a FailOnException job middleware. As well as a sort redirect back with errors and more. Let's talk about the Eloquent Builder PHP attribute. So Herjistan Manasiev contributed a useEloquentBuilder PHP attribute to register a custom Eloquent query builder for a model. This feature has been proposed a few different times, and it's now in Laravel 12 for those that are using these custom query builders. Before, you might have written something like this to have a custom query builder where you'd have my model extends model, and then you'd have a public function new Eloquent builder, and then you would return your custom builder. But but now you can use the framework provided PHP attribute to just say pound useEloquentBuilder and then specify your custom builder class in there instead of having to do it in that new Eloquent Builder method, which is pretty nice. We're seeing a lot of those across the framework now. These attributes that are being used, they're being fully embraced. And again, if you use Laravel Shift to get from 11 to 12, it'll do things like scopes. If you have a scope most recent, something like that, in your Eloquent model, it will use the scoped attribute for you, remove that scope prefix for you, and just use the framework provided PHP attribute. So those are nice, observable by or whatever. I use that all the time now. That's really handy, and the Laravel Shift will do that for you as well. So lots of good stuff for using there. Okay. Azim Kordpor contributed a as fluent model cast. So if you have a class passenger extending model, you have a protected function casts, which is where you return the array of all the different things you'd like to cast. So you can say address as fluent class. And we've talked about this fluent instance a couple times before. So what that will do is that will just give you a fluent instance that you can use with your model instance. So you can address get, and then you can use those nested values using dot notation to get all the way down to things further down. So if you have an address get office.street or home.street, etc., you can update it using fluent interfaces, or you can access it as an array as well. So lots of good stuff there. If you happen to be using the fluent interface, much easier to get cast to that now with that as fluent. Okay, FailOnException job middleware. Luke Kuzmish contributed a queue job middleware to fail the job on a particular exception. The default behavior is to retry based on how many retries are left. So if there's a failure in your job and you have a retry 3 times for this queue worker, it's going to attempt to retry that 3 times. But using this middleware, you might know that a job never has a chance to run successfully, and then you can instantly fail the job without ever having to retry it. So let's say you know that there's a fatal error, maybe a dependent model that you need access to, or something like that is not present. You know it's not going to be present the next couple times you're going to run it. Why bother retrying it? So instead, you can say public function middleware, and then you can return new FailOnException and then pass in the exception itself that should cause that job to automatically fail and not retry. So that's really helpful if you end up using queued jobs quite a bit, and you've run into this before. I know we certainly have. Ahmed Allah contributed 2 test response methods to assert whether the response is redirecting back to the previous page and if the session has the given errors. So arrow, assert redirect back with errors. You can pass in the error bag as well as the keys that you're looking for. The second helper is the opposite, which is asserting a redirect back and verifying that no errors exist in the session. Those are all documented in the official 12.x documentation. Adding a mailable attachment from an uploaded file instance. This was contributed by Rodrigo Pedra Brum. The method he contributed the from uploaded file method to the mail attachment class, which allows you to convert an uploaded file instance into a mailable attachment. This is really handy in the case that somebody is uploading a file into a controller that you have control over, and then instead of having to store that locally temporarily for a moment and then attach it to an email that's going to go out, you can just immediately attach that to a mailable attachment. So attachment : from uploaded file, passing in that file attachment that you just got. Pretty cool stuff there. You can see the complete list of new features and updates below, and the diff between 12.18 and 12.19 on GitHub. You can find the rest of that in the show notes.
Yeah, I like that. Not having to do the save it to storage and then attach it, doing that whole dance of figuring out how to do it manually. Just being able to pass the file straight out of the request into your mailable is extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, on to packages. First up, Larallow is a package for handling roles and permissions with advanced features such as scope roles, polymorphic relations, translation support, and more. The package helps you manage permission tasks such as creating permissions, assigning and removing them from users, and finally checking those capabilities in your app. I think that middle bit creating the permissions is like always the missing piece from all of the package, all of the permission kind of management things. There's always like, you can define them in a config and you can then check them. But as for saving and storing them, it seems to always be the missing piece. And like, generally speaking, I think if you're adding a new permission, there's always going to be some code change associated to it. Like, it's not enough to just create it in the database, because you then have to change some code to gate some functionality or something like that. So, but having an interface to do it, or having some capability to do it, is always helpful as well. So, using the package, you can allow user permissions directly using the allow method, and you can assign permissions to use through a role as you'd expect in a permission package. On the other side of assigning permissions to users, the package also provides the ability to create permissions and even group them into maybe roles. The package provides various ways to check permissions for an actor and a role. You can use a has role method, or you can say a roles query looking for roles for a specific actor on a model. So you can scope the permission check to a specific model and then run the check there, and you can check all to make sure that all the roles are present. You can also check roles in Blade templates using the @roles directive to determine capabilities in views. Main features include the ability to manage roles and permissions for any actor model. So a user, a client, some other hierarchical structure in your application, support for scope roles via polymorphic rollable models. I'm having some difficulty with the English language today. Support for scoped permissions via polymorphic permissionable models, defining permissions with a Fluent API in a similar way to how you define Laravel routes. There is Fluent querying and checking with permissions and roles helper classes, built-in translation support, and permission hierarchy. If you would like to learn more about this package, you can get the installation instructions. We will have links to that for you in the show notes. It is important to note that this package is new to the Laravel permissions space and hasn't yet released a version 1 yet. So whilst permissions are a critical part of securing the application, be sure to do your homework when selecting whichever permission package you use.
Indeed. And actually, historically, Laravel has had some really well-known packages for managing users that are considered stable and have been around for a long time. There's actually a blog post out there on a comparison of the 2 best Laravel packages to manage roles and permissions on the Laravel news site. You can find it in the show notes. We are of the mind that we will provide sharp tools for you, or sharp knives, right, and let you decide what the right tool for the job is, though. So this is just a new option that's out there, and would love to see what you think of it. So hit us up, give us some feedback. Love to hear from you. Okay, manipulating image URLs in Laravel with the image transform package. So let's paint the picture here. If you don't know about these types of services, I'm going to tell you they exist, and then I'm going to tell you how you can use this package. So if you've never used Cloudinary before, which is a really great one, or Cloudflare images, what these sites will allow you to do is to upload an original size image, and then when you're building out your web page, you can look at the rendered image size, right-click, inspect, look at the rendered image size, right? And it's going to say its default image size, or, the actual uploaded image size is 2,000 pixels. But you're kind of scaling around, and you can see that the largest size this actually ever gets to is like 500 pixels wide. Well, at that point, you have an option, right? You can pull up your editor, you can modify it to 500 pixels wide, upload that, reference it, however you want to do that. Or you can use something like one of these tools, Cloudinary or Cloudflare images. And what it will allow you to do is just pass along in the URL, referencing that image, these different transformations, such as width, format, background, flipping, right? A horizontal flip or a vertical flip, things like that. And they're insanely powerful, because once you've done that that value, that image, that derived image is now cached at that location and available on a CDN, which is amazing. The only downfall is those are paid packages, right? So if you have a large number of images that you're needing to host, or a lot of transformations and you don't have the budget to do so, or whatever it might be, this package now offers a lightweight and expressive way to do basically the same thing that these other paid services allow you to do. So the package is newly created. It's only at version 0.4.0 at the time of writing. It doesn't have all the features found in these other platforms, but it does provide an alternative, self-hosted image proxy using Laravel, and intervention image for file manipulations. You can also provide image manipulation within your existing application to simplify your development setup and deployment for image manipulations. Here are some of the main features: the URL parameters to transform things on the fly, support for various transformations like resizing, compression, and format conversion, automatic caching of those transformed images for faster loading times, as mentioned. It also has integration with CDNs for even faster global delivery. So if you want to push those out to the edge when you do that transformation, you could do that. It also has support for things like rate limiting. So somebody can't just, sync your server by trying to request a whole bunch of different formats and, screw you over. But you can check out the documentation on GitHub for more options and advanced usage, and find out how to install the package and customize it to your liking. Thanks, Paul, for writing that one up.
Nice. And shout out also, not mentioned in the article, but to Aaron Francis, who built the original. I think he put out a video a few weeks ago now that went through the process that he went through, because whilst using those tools are possible and using third-party services are possible, sometimes you just need a very small subset of the functionality. So shout out to him for the foundational work on that one as well. The Laravel Zap package is a flexible schedule management system with a deep Laravel integration. With Zap, you can create calendar schedules for Eloquent models for things like events, appointments, recurring events, and more. This is using a fluent interface, as has become quite custom for Laravel applications. You can say Zap for a user, named whatever you needed to name it, from a date unto a date, at a period, so a time from 9 to 9:30, and make it run weekly, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then save it. Part of working with schedule management is performing queries to check for model availability, getting the next available slot, dealing with schedule conflicts, and so on and so forth. This package could be ideal for appointment booking systems or meeting room management, employee shift management, and other schedule-based applications. Main features include Eloquent integration, a business rules engine for configuring validation with Laravel integration directly, temporal operations, so manipulating dates and times with time zone support, smart conflict detection to handle automatic overlap checking with customizable buffers. There is recurring schedules, availability management. It is Laravel native, so it provides facades, service providers, events, and configuration. And with the Fluent API, comprehensive testing, and clear documentation, it provides the kind of developer experience we've come to expect of a top quality Laravel package. You can check it out on GitHub. We'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
Absolutely. That's a good one. That's a really good one. It looks like the API is super nice. We've had to do this before, and I gotta say,
it's not fun.
It is painful. It is painful. Yeah. So having something that's already tested and built out and has been used by multiple people is definitely an advantage if this is something you have to take on yourself. Okay. Speaking of widely used things, PayHere is a widely used payment gateway service in Sri Lanka. If you happen to be building something in Sri Lanka and Stripe doesn't work there, or some of the other payment providers don't work there, this might be a good thing for you to consider. So this PayHere plugin provides seamless integration of PayHere into Laravel applications. You can imagine, without me even saying, what all the things are that this brings in, right? Checkout flows, dispatching events for received webhooks, managing payments and subscriptions, implementing a PayHere customer interface for your user model, a billable trait that you can use in your user model for common billing tasks, a intermediate RESTful API that allows for communication with the PayHere RESTful API, HTML-based form builder, a built-in filament panel making it easy to manage payments and subscriptions right in your Laravel application. On and on it goes. The installation instructions are in here. It's as simple as installing it with Composer Require, running the PayHere install command, and then publishing the assets and setting up your secrets after signing up for the service. That's it. Seems like a good one. Again, if you happen to be building in Sri Lanka, this is a good one to check out. There you go.
Nice. The DBML to Laravel package, so DBML being database markup language files, is a package that generates Eloquent models and migrations directly from this specification. It provides you with fillable properties, it defines relationships, and more. DBML files can also be visualized as database diagrams, doubling your database schema as documentation to help developers familiarize themselves with an application's data model. The DBML to Laravel package can speed up your development workflow and keep everyone in sync with a central database configuration tool. So there is a example here from the package's README that illustrates how the package works, going from a DBML file with generate all the way up to generated models. So there is obviously a specification for the schema in which you would do this, which is fairly straightforward. You'd say table users, and then inside of braces, you'd then say ID, int, and whether it's a primary key and incrementing, you'd say name, varchar, email, varchar, and so on and so forth. And using the above file, you can then call the generate:\dbml artisan command, and it will generate you the corresponding Eloquent model. The main features of the package include the ability to automatically generate Eloquent models with fillable properties, hidden attributes, and defined relationships. There is generation of migration files to create clean and accurate migrations with proper data types, nullability, default values, foreign key constraints directly from your schema. Easily modify the default model and migration stubs to align with your project's coding style and specific requirements. There is relationship parsing for creating relationships and setting up the correct Eloquent relationship methods, and automatically adds common Eloquent casts as well, including JSON to arrays, timestamps to datetime objects, and so on and so forth. So this is a very interesting thing especially if you're in a situation where you need the documentation of the schema and you want to be able to visualize it maybe, and then sometimes it's easier to go from the common format to this Laravel specific thing. The database might be offloaded somewhere else. You might have a database administrator, which I think is much less common these days than what it used to be. But definitely a nice way to visualize and kind of build these things out collaboratively as well. To have the DBML spec file as well. So this is an interesting approach. Thanks to Paul Redmond for writing this up. We'll have links for all of that in the show notes.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, if you happen to be managing or helping to manage a content-heavy site, one of the things that's a big challenge is generating Open Graph images for each of the new pieces of content that are coming out. What is an Open Graph image, you might ask? Well, the Open Graph protocol was initially introduced by Facebook in 2010. So what this is a set of tags that allows web developers to control how their web pages get represented when they're shared on social media platforms or when they're shared through SMS or Teams or chat programs, right? By enabling your pages to become rich objects in a social graph. So these dictate things like title or description, image, other vital information that appears in these different media previews, and that's where these Open Graph things come into play. So the challenge is you either have to create a new image for each of your different pieces of content, like each of your pages. Like if you have like a page like what I'm typically creating, most of the pages on our site, I don't care. I'm going to share the same Open Graph tag. The URL might be different, but that's what it is. It's just one image, right? The other option is you generate them yourself, right? You take the time to generate a new image for each share, and the image that gets generated is, or that you create is relevant to the content that's being shared. Or you can use a package like the one we're going to be talking about here, which is called Open Graphy, and this will generate them for you. It will easily generate Open Graph images, because that's the most difficult part. The rest of it's just text stuff, but the images are the difficult part. So it'll easily generate Open Graph images for your website. It'll add a title, an image, and your logo to the Open Graph image. It's all configurable. You can add a screenshot of the page inside the Open Graph image to show a preview of the page. There's 5 different templates that you can choose from. So there's stripes, nodes, sunny, verticals, and strings. They've got examples of all of them. In addition to just using those templates, though, you can also customize the colors and the styles of those templates. Then after it's generated, it'll cache those generated images, and you can also create your own template if you want. So if you don't want to use any of theirs, you can generate your own custom template and then just use their blade directive here to generate that image for you and put it onto your page. So this Open Graphy does require the Chrome or Chromium browser to be installed on your server. I'm guessing this is using Puppeteer. But the README file provides instructions for how to install this. It's not complicated. It's quite simple. But assuming that you already have those things installed, you can just compose or require this, and then you publish the config so you can make your customizations, which template are you wanting to use, etc. And then all you have to do is in your blade template, inside of the head of your HTML document, you're going to x-open-graphy, and then you're going to ask it to generate these links for you. And inside of that tag, you can specify the title, you can specify the template, you can specify those different pieces. And what that's going to do is that's going to go ahead and output all of those Open Graph tags that are needed in order to make sure that when you share this on socials or when you share this through text messages or what have you, that it's going to give an Open Graph image that has been generated using this Open Graphy package. So really, really cool looking. They've done a good job there. I think the big selling point for me too is that you can create your own customs, right? Your own custom tags. This is something that I feel like has been attempted to be solved by multiple people, multiple services, and this one looks pretty darn clean. I think it's great. And so, if that's something that you've needed to do and you've been struggling to find a way to do that, check out Open Graphy. It looks like a good one.
Yeah, I think I'll check that one out for some stuff that I wanted to work on as well. Very handy. The Gemini AI Translator package for Laravel extracts translation keys in your Laravel project and translates them using Google's Gemini AI agent. The package generates the necessary language files to translate your application quickly. The package works by using an interactive CLI command that will scan your project, prompt you to select translation files to process, and translate the strings using AI, and then generating the corresponding translation keys. So it gives you a artisan command with which you would select the translation files or which files you want to process, and then it will go off and do that work for you. Using the provided artisan command, you can specify the language files you would like to translate your string into and other configuration options like chunking to determine how many keys to send to Gemini in each request. The main features include interactive prompts to interactively select which translation files and JSON key prefixes need to be processed. Powerful key extraction will scan your blade files, PHP files, Vue.js, and TypeScript files for translation keys using precise, regular expressions. There are intelligent exclusions, AI-powered translations, concurrency support using sparsely fork for parallel processing and making API calls significantly faster. There is a graceful stop to stop the translation process at any time, and provides detailed logging, creating a translation extraction log file detailing every key and where it was found, plus a failed translation keys JSON file for any errors that were encountered. You can get started with the package by visiting the Laravel Gemini Translator repo on GitHub. You can learn how to use the package from the usage docs, and there is more information and ideas about AI translation in the article using AI to manage translations in Laravel right here on Laravel News. We'll have links to all of that for you in the show notes.
Oh, I love how easy this has become. This used to be full-time jobs for people, just going through and trying to manage all the translators that were going to. Yes, exactly. I had to do this for one of the companies I worked for. They had like 20 different languages they were translating things into, so it was quite complex. But now you can just do it with the click of a button. It's pretty insane. Really, really nice. Well, hey, if you've needed to inspect code bases, and we'll talk about exactly what I mean by that, but if you've had to do that before, it can be difficult to do because you're not really like querying, like querying a model in your application. You're querying things about that model. You want to know things about that. So it's like reflection, like you could use reflection to do that, I suppose, right? But this package that we're talking about is meant to make some of those things easier. Let me give you a couple examples, right? The Laravel Introspect package allows you to analyze Laravel code bases, querying views, models, routes, classes, and more directly from your code base using a type-safe Fluent API. So using this package, you can query Laravel application's code base programmatically to find specific views, routes, classes, models, and more. Okay, when would you need this? If you're working on like a complex refactoring job, or if you're building a dev tool for other people where you're saying, if you'd like to do this upgrade, whatever, you're going to need to go find all the places where you're using this thing, and you're going to need to modify it to be this. In those cases, right, you're going to need like structured schema information of your application. You're going to need to know pieces that you can actually look at and then give advice on. So a couple examples they have here is Introspect, which is the name of the package, dodop, views, where name equals, components star dot button, or where it's used by pages.admin.star. Get all of those. So any of the places where we're using a button inside of admin pages, go find all those views, return them back to me. Pretty cool. Find any routes where it uses this controller and this middleware and this method. Go get that, right? And you're going to get back an array of all of those routes that match all of those different parameters. Classes, where it implements this interface, where it uses this trait. Get those. Models, where it has these properties, where it has a fillable password, et cetera, on and on it goes, right? So the main features are that you can query views, routes, classes, and models with this really clean, fluent API. You can also use wildcards to match multiple views, routes, and classes and models without having to specify exactly what you're looking for. It will then parse those properties, relationships, and types and more directly from Eloquent model code. And then you can deserialize queries to or from JSON. This is nice because you can then pipe these to an LLM for tool calling. So you could say, here's some information about my application, send this off to an LLM. How should I handle X, Y, or Z, whatever this might be? So looks really interesting. Laravel Introspect is the name of that package. Check it out.
Laravel Virtual Wallet is a lightweight plug-and-play Laravel package created by Niraj Saini for managing virtual wallets, supporting multiple wallet types, and keeping transaction logs that seamlessly integrate with any Laravel user model. It doesn't process payments, but it can allow you to track users to track virtual money in their wallet after completing a payment through another payment processor if needed, or virtual currency that can be used in games. Main features include multi-wallet support, creating and managing multiple wallet types per user, transaction management, payment processing, deposit handling, multiple currency support, wallet status tracking, secure and reliable because it is built using Laravel's Eloquent, enums, morphs, and policy-friendly structure. It is highly configurable, allowing you to override models and table names and more via configuration. It provides easy configuration by just dropping a trait on your model and you're good to go. And with simple credit, debit, transfer, and balance APIs, management of user balance is a breeze. There are some examples on how to get things set up. And to make a payment, you would just create a payment data object, for example, with the relevant transaction information, change the type to withdraw, and then use the pay method from the included trait. And then you can check the balance using the get balance method, and you can check to see if a user can make a transaction using the has sufficient balance method. Very interesting if you're doing any kind of, the first thing that springs to mind is some kind of, either text-based game or some kind of backend for some, visual, when you're tracking currency, or if you're allocating credits to users of your application for certain things, this might be something that you want to consider. So thanks to Niraj for putting this package together, and to Yannick for writing the article for us.
Absolutely. Love that one. Folks, that brings us to the tutorial portion of our time together. I'm going to hit the first one, which is the only tutorial that we have that is not a framework reminder. And so let me run through this one quick. This is written by Moses Anumadu, and his goal with this tutorial is to talk about how you can use Laravel along with MongoDB. So that's not a widely adopted stack, I wouldn't say, in the larger Laravel community. I don't know of a bunch of people that are using MongoDB, but if you are, or if you're coming from a situation where you're using MongoDB, or that's the only choice that you have, know that it is possible. It is possible to use MongoDB. And the really nice thing about Laravel is that we've got drivers and stuff that are all set up to do that. But there are some nuanced things that you need to do in order to make that happen. And so what we're doing in this tutorial is building a task reminder app with Laravel and MongoDB, right? You can think of a task reminder app as the hello world of programming, right? When you're going to build out a fresh application, you build a task reminder app. So in this, it goes through how you install and set up a free MongoDB Atlas cluster, how you get your server set up, how you configure your database, how to handle authentication with Laravel Breeze and MongoDB, and then how you can go about creating that task reminder system. Goes through the entire thing. It's a quite extensive tutorial, but it's not overkill. He does a good job of keeping it to the point, and so this is one of those ones that if you're really kind of getting after it, seems like you can get through the entire thing from start to finish in about an hour. So if you're looking at using MongoDB with Laravel, this is a great tutorial to take a look at. Thanks so much, Moses, for writing this one up.
Nice. And as you mentioned, Jake, the rest of this week's tutorials, 9 of them, are framework reminders. First up, everybody's favorite human, Paul Redmond, talks in greater detail about the dedicated query builder functionality in Laravel, but also the trait that we spoke about at the top of the episode, so check that one out. And then Harris Raftopoulos has been hard at work again, testing deferred operations with Laravel's without defer helper, handling nested arrays with the fluent helper, which we've spoken about a few times now, so a little bit of a recap on that. Resetting rate limits with Laravel's rate limiter clear method, dividing collections using the split in helper of the collection, listening to and responding to events and tracking cache activity that way, retrieving command parameters in artisan commands, accepting multiple parameters in artisan commands, and enhanced enum processing with Laravel's default parameter support. So we'll have links to all of those for you in the show notes. You can check them out at your own leisure.
Folks, that is 240, episode 240. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. And if you would like to see us both in person, we would love for you to stop and say hi. We will both be at Laracon US in Denver this year. Can't wait to see you all and all of the amazing talks that we're looking forward to. We were just talking before the show started about all the different items that we're excited to hear about. I have one in particular, really excited to hear what Nuno has been working on. I was chatting with him just the other day, and it is going to be a banger. It's going to be crazy. I cannot tell you how much it is going to change things for us. So super excited to hear his talk. Lots of other stuff as well. If you have not had a chance to grab tickets, you definitely should. It's going to be amazing. So hopefully we get a chance to see you there. But until then, this will have to do. Episode 240, Laravel-news.com. Sorry, podcast.laravel-news.com/240. You can find the show notes there. And if you liked the podcast, please rate it up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be incredible. As always, if you have any questions, comments, hit us up on Twitter, on X, on Blue Sky, at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett, or at Laravel News. Folks, until next time, it's been a good one. Happy early July 4th, and I will see you on X with your wonderful mustaches, all of you who decide to join us. Until then, we'll see you.
See you, everyone.